Good evening. It's Tuesday, January 4th, 2022. Market Headlines is ready to provide you information from business and economy. And with me, Fajar Wayong, you're watching Market Headlines. And let's start today's market headlines. President Joko Widodo emphasized that coal mining companies must prioritize the supply of coal for domestic purposes. The president even threatened that coal mining business licenses could be revoked if they violated this provision. President Joko Widodo emphasized that coal mining companies must prioritize the supply of coal for domestic purposes. In his official statement, President Jokowi asked the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, the Ministry of SOEs, and PLN to find the best solution in the national interest. He said that the main priority for domestic resources is meeting domestic needs, both for PLN and industry.
Saya perlu mengingatkan bahwa pemerintah mewajibkan perusahaan swasta, BUMN beserta anak perusahaannya yang bergerak baik di bidang pertambangan, perkebunan, maupun pengolahan sumber daya alam lainnya untuk menyediakan kebutuhan dalam negeri terlebih dahulu sebelum melakukan ekspor. Sudah ada mekanisme DMO yang mewajibkan perusahaan tambang memenuhi kebutuhan pembangkit PLN. Ini mutlak, jangan sampai dilanggar dengan alasan apapun. Perusahaan yang tidak dapat melaksanakan kewajibannya untuk memenuhi kebutuhan dalam negeri bisa diberikan sanksi. Bila perlu bukan cuma tidak mendapatkan izin ekspor, tapi juga pencabutan izin usahanya.
In addition, the president also threatened that coal mining business actors would be given sanctions if they violated this provision. In fact, Jokowi said that business licenses could be revoked if they still violated the DMO provisions. Furthermore, Jokowi requires private companies, state-owned enterprises, and their subsidiaries engaged in mining, plantations, and natural resource processing to meet domestic needs first before exporting. IDX Channel reports. The Minister of Health revealed that the increase in the number of cases of the Omicron variant was mostly caused by imported cases. In the same time, the government has again decided to reduce the quarantine period for people traveling from abroad.
The Ministry of Health is preparing infrastructure in several hospitals in Indonesia. This is done to anticipate the spread of Omicron variant of the COVID-19 variant, which has increased in recent days. The Minister of Health Budi Gunadi Sadikin revealed that the increase in the number of cases of the Omicron variant was mostly caused by imported cases or clusters from abroad.
Indonesia ada di posisi 40, jumlahnya per hari ini 152. Ada tambahan 16 dibandingkan 2 hari yang lalu dan semuanya berasal dari pelaku perjalanan luar negeri. Puncak Juli kemarin sudah mendatangkan 16.000 oksigen konsentrator yang kita kirim ke seluruh rumah sakit di seluruh Indonesia, terutama yang akses oksigennya susah.
Meanwhile, on the other hand, the government has again reduced the quarantine period for citizens traveling from abroad to 7 to 10 days.
Tadi diputuskan karantina yang 14 hari menjadi 10 hari dan yang 10 hari menjadi 7 hari.
In the previous regulation, a 14-day quarantine period was applied to people who came from countries that had local transmission cases of Omicron. Meanwhile, a 10-day quarantine applies to travelers from countries that do not meet this criteria. IDX Channel reports.
Finance Minister reported that the state budget deficit reached 783.7 trillion rupiah in 2021, or equivalent to 4.65% of Indonesia's gross domestic product.
Finance Minister Sri Mulyani said the state budget deficit reached 783.7 trillion rupiah last year. This figure is equivalent to 4.65% of Indonesia's gross domestic product. Sri Mulyani explained that the state budget deficit in 2021 fell when compared to 2020, which reached 947 trillion rupiah or 5.14% of GDP. The decline in the deficit occurred in line with the increase in state revenue. It was recorded that the total state revenue last year was 2,003 trillion rupiah, an increase of 21% from 2020, which was 1,647 trillion rupiah.
Tapi poin kita adalah defisit bahkan sekarang sudah di bawah 5% dan nggak cuma dekat 5%, di 4,65% dari GDP. Jauh lebih kecil dari yang di APBN. Sampai dengan 31 Desember pendapatan negara mencapai 2.003,1 triliun. Coba kita bandingkan dengan pre-COVID di LKPP 2019 1960, terus kita dihantam pandemi tahun lalu, maka penerimaan negara drop 16% di 1.647. Jadi kalau sekarang pendapatan negara mencapai 2.003,1 triliun, itu kita tumbuhnya 21,6 triliun.
She detailed tax revenue of 1,277 trillion rupiah, customs and excise revenues of around 200 trillion rupiah annually, and non-tax state revenues of 452 trillion rupiah. Meanwhile, state spending was recorded at 2,786 trillion rupiah, an increase of 7.4% in 2021. This figure is equivalent to 101.3% of the spending target of 2,750 trillion rupiah. IDX Channel reports.
And we're moving on to global update. Turkey's annual inflation rate has soared to a 19-year high amid the country's financial turmoil. Meanwhile, France moves towards vaccine pass to fight Omicron tidal wave. More stories on today's International Minute. Turkey's annual inflation rate has soared to a 19-year high, underlining the country's financial turmoil and alarm over its president's policies. Prices hit more than 36% December as the cost of transport, food and other staples ate into household budgets. Most central banks raise interest rates to help cool inflation, but Turkey has gone the other way. It has meant a collapse in the value of the lira as Tayyip Erdogan prioritizes exports over currency stability. Crisis hit China's real estate giant Evergrande has suspended trade in its shares in Hong Kong as investors await news on its restructuring plan. The statement to the stock exchange did not give a reason for the trading halt. Evergrande has more than $300 billion of debt and is scrambling to raise cash by selling assets and shares to repay suppliers and creditors. Last week, the company dialed back plans to repay investors in its wealth management products. Apple became the first U.S. company to hit $3 trillion in market value, briefly reaching the landmark on Monday in the latest demonstration of the tech industry's pandemic surge. The iPhone maker scaled the record level near 1,845 GMT, reaching $182.88 a share before slipping back slightly. The tech giant also was the first U.S. company to hit $2 trillion in August 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic that stoked demand for personal electronics and digital services such as Apple's streaming and smartphone app store. French MPs on Monday began debating draft legislation that would require most people to be vaccinated against COVID-19 to enter public spaces such as bars, restaurants, and long-distance public transport. Dubbed the Vaccine Pass, the bill's headline measure is aimed at getting France's remaining 5 million unvaccinated people over 12 to accept a shot. So far, a recent negative test has been enough to secure a health pass granting access to the same activities. IDX Channel reports. Investors are expected to still enjoy the benefits of investing in the stock market this year. Market headlines will be right back.
Ini kan digital ini kan untuk masa depan. Kalau kembali ke masa lalu, jadinya Digimon dong.
Sekarang apa-apa serba digital dong. Ya. Baca koran
Digital,
ya kan? Baca buku
digital.
nanti baca pikiran juga digital, bro. Apa-apa sekarang mau transportasi online harus peduli lindungi, masuk museum peduli lindungi.
Betul.
Nanti masuk ke rumah mertua kata dia kemarin.
Oh iya benar. Juga perlu. Itu juga penting. Pentingnya menjaga kesehatan calon mantu.
Ada strategi khusus nggak dari Volcraft sendiri agar bisa bertahan di tengah pandemi?
Justru karena kita salah satu yang bisnis yang malah diuntungkan dengan pandemi ini, jadi strateginya bukan strategi bertahan, tapi strateginya strategi growing.
Saya Prisa Somodatu membawakan program berita News Screen yang menghadirkan informasi seputar ekonomi maupun juga bisnis dari dalam negeri.
Pak Diki, sebelum membahas lebih jauh, apa nih? Ada varian baru dari COVID-19 yaitu Omicron.
Omicron ini 1,3 kali lebih cepat menular dari Delta varian.
Kementerian Pariwisata dan Ekonomi Kreatif secara tegas akan memperketat bagi para wisatawan asing yang akan liburan ke Bali.
Ya, nantinya wisatawan asing harus melakukan swab PCR sebelum keberangkatan.
Para wisatawan-wisatawan yang sehat, para wisatawan yang sudah tervaksin.
Selama pandemi, banyak armada taksi dari Taksi di Thailand menganggur.
Berencana akan melepaskan saham holding BUMN Pertambangan Main ID di Bursa Efek Indonesia.
You're watching Market Headlines. Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs say that the Indonesian economy could be more optimistic in 2022. Meantime, investors are expected to still enjoy the benefits of investing in the stock market this year, while some analysts predict that the JCI will break a new record above the level of 7,000. Investors are expected to still enjoy the benefits of investing in the stock market in 2022. Some analysts even predict that the GCI will break a new record above the 7,000 level in 2022, with recommendations for stocks from the new economy and the old economy. Based on data, the GCI has strengthened 10.08% throughout 2021. The highest performance was recorded by the IDX Sector Technology Index, which soared by 707.56% in 2021. Director of Corporate Valuation of the Indonesia Stock Exchange, Gedung say that there had been a preference among investors who are leaning towards choose stocks that are close to everyday life. Meantime, Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs Erlangga Hartarto said that the Indonesian economy could be more optimistic, one of which was seen from the capital market trading in 2022. This was conveyed by Erlangga at the opening of trading on the Indonesia Stock Exchange.
Bursa ke depan diharapkan lebih optimis. Kemudian yang kedua terkait dengan teknologi, tahun kemarin kita sudah bisa launch IPO Bukalapak, salah satu yang terbesar di Asia sebesar 21,9 triliun. Ini perlu dilanjutkan. Dan yang kedua mungkin terkait dengan kegiatan pemulihan ekonomi nasional kita lanjutkan.
Regarding the economy going forward, Erlangga said that the government would still support the recovery process through the 2022 National Economic Recovery Budget. The budget value prepared is 414 trillion rupiah. IDX Channel reports. And to dig deeper about the prospects of the economy and capital market in 2022, already join us via Zoom, Andre Wijaya, Head of Research RHB Sekuritas Indonesia. Good evening, sir. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, regarding the prospects of the economy and capital market in 2022, we know that economy and capital market went through ups and downs in 2021. From the Indonesian economic growth, we can see that in 2020 and 2021, Indonesia experienced not a really good growth, but we can see in the second quarter and the third quarter, the Indonesia economic growth at 7.07% and 3.51%. We can see in the infographic that in the first graphic, we can see that Indonesia economic growth in 2020 and 2022. In 2020, in the second quarter, -3%. In the third quarter, -3.49%. In the fourth quarter, 2.19%. And experience grew on the first quarter in 2021. And already connected via Zoom, Andre Wijaya, Head of Research RHB Sekuritas. Good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening, Pak Fajar.
Yeah, I hope you are in a good condition and healthy. Andre, what we can see from economy in 2021? What a big picture from last year economy.
Yeah, actually, if you look at the last year economic, that Indonesia economic growth is very good in the beginning of the year, especially in the first quarter. But coming to the third quarter, the number is the third quarter 2021 GDP growth is below our expectation. Actually, this is about 3.51%. The number of the GDP growth in the third quarter. This is below our estimate and also below the Bloomberg consensus. But although the number is below our expectation, actually we still optimistic on the growth number in the fourth quarter, and we believe that by the end of this year, the GDP could grow by around 4%. This is driven by the relaxation in terms of the lockdown, in terms of the PPKM. Also, right now, the business activity already starting to the new normal, and this is should boost the economic growth in the fourth quarter. And even in the 2022, we believe the economic growth will be increased faster compared to the 2021 because economic will be driven by the normalization in terms of the business activity. Also, the increase in the commodity price will increase the economic activity as well in 2022. So we are quite optimistic on the 2022 GDP numbers.
So will the positive trend will continue in this year? Especially we know that there is vaccination program and then economic recovery program, which are claimed to be a booster for the economy.
Yeah, of course. That if you look at the vaccination rate in Indonesia right now, already quite good, about 60%. It is still lower compared to the neighboring country, but for the Indonesia, 60% vaccination rate is quite strong, and we already see that the number of the COVID-19 cases already declined quite significant. Right now, already below 1,000 cases per day, which is very very strong. And also, if you look at the positivity rate in terms of the COVID-19 cases, right now could be maintained at around 0.5 until 1%. This is much below compared to the WHO recommendation, which is around 5%. So the COVID-19 cases in Indonesia right now is very controllable, is very manageable.
Okay, so COVID-19 pandemic handling is one of the key for the economy, and is it also the key of Indonesian capital market developments in last year? Especially we see the Jakarta Composite Index grew by 10% throughout 2021. Is it outperform or underperform in your opinion amid many uncertainties in last year?
If you look at the GCI performance last year, this is outperform compared to the regional country. In USD term, actually, the GCI last year increased by 8.1%. If you compare to the peers, this is including Vietnam, Taiwan, China, and also the Southeast Asian country, the average performance only about 7.3%. So Indonesia actually is the above the average level. And if you compare to the Southeast Asian country in terms of the performance in USD term, Indonesia actually is the highest, even higher compared to the other developed country like Singapore.
Okay, so we can say that Indonesian capital market is still attractive. But what are the main challenges for the capital market and the economy in 2022? We'll discuss it deeper after the break, Andre, and we'll continue our dialogue. And stay tuned with us on Market Headlines.
Halo Sobat Investor, kalian udah punya rumah belum? Berikut ini adalah tips bagi kalian yang ingin memiliki rumah impian. Tips yang pertama adalah menabung auto debit untuk membayar DP rumah. Kesulitan utama dalam membeli rumah adalah membayar uang muka sebagai syarat KPR. Jadi saat pertama kali kalian menerima gaji, langsung disisihkan secara otomatis ya untuk ditabung. Tips yang kedua adalah menabung dalam bentuk tabungan deposito ataupun emas. Menabung dalam bentuk tabungan deposito dan juga emas membuat tabungan kalian menjadi lebih aman dan tentunya melatih kalian agar semakin disiplin dalam menabung. Tips yang ketiga adalah cari DP rumah yang bisa dicicil. Program cicilan DP rumah membantu kalian yang memiliki dana terbatas. Tips berikutnya adalah pilihlah rumah yang sesuai dengan kebutuhan kalian. Pilihlah rumah yang memang kalian butuhkan ya Sobat Investor. Tips yang terakhir adalah pilihlah KPR dengan tenor yang cukup panjang. Karena KPR dengan tenor yang panjang membuat cicilan bulanan kalian menjadi lebih rendah. Nah, kini memiliki properti impian tentunya bukan angan-angan lagi ya Sobat Investor.
Welcome back. Let's continue our dialogue with Andre Wijaya, Head of Research RHB Sekuritas Indonesia. So what are the main challenges for JCI or the capital market in Indonesia in 2022 that investors should anticipate?
Actually, there are some challenges actually in the 2022. One, in terms of the inflation. We believe that inflation will be accelerated for this year. This is triggered by increasing in the commodity price, especially crude oil and also the other commodity price like coal, and also like metal mining also increasing as well. It will increase the inflation, and also the other thing that the higher tax rate like VAT tax and also the carbon tax, maybe this could trigger the push cost inflation that might trigger the slowdown in the consumer spending. But I believe all of these things should be still manageable. And the other challenging is more on the COVID-19, of course, because there is still a risk that COVID-19 could be increased, especially after the holiday, after the New Year holiday, and the increasing of the COVID-19 could trigger the government to again doing the lockdown to reduce the risk of the contagion of the virus. But again, for the Omicron, there is already study by WHO that the symptoms of the Omicron should be much mild, much slight, light compared to the Delta variant. So it should be manageable as well. So all the risk, this is the risk, but I think it could be manageable and it will not impact the GCI significantly.
Okay, so how about the normalization of monetary policy, like tapering off from the Fed, will the impact is quite big, or it will be very minimal or very slight to the Indonesian capital market?
There will be impact, of course, because of the Fed tightening policy. The impact more on the rupiah currency. We expect the rupiah currency will be slightly weakened because of the tightening policy in the US, but it should be manageable and it should not impact the GCI significantly. And the other good is that if we look at the data right now, the foreign ownership in Indonesia capital market right now is at low level. Like right now in the equity market, the foreign ownership only about 34%. If we compare to the 2016, the foreign ownership is about 42%. So given right now that the foreign ownership is very low, so if there is a capital outflow from Indonesia to the developed market, I believe the impact should be quite minimal to the capital market. So there is a risk, but should be manageable, I think.
So it must be anticipated by the regulators, including Bank of Indonesia and of course the government. So we hope that the impact will be minimum. But maybe it's the last question, Andre. Are there any certain sectors in the JCI that will shine in 2022?
Yeah, of course. In our population, actually, GCI earning will grow by 18.6% for this year, and it will be driven by 4 sectors. This is a bank, retail, cement, and also infrastructure related. So we believe that the cyclical sector like bank, cement, retail, and infra related will grow faster compared to the peers, especially for the earning growth for this year.
Okay, I think it can be noted by the investors or maybe our viewers for looking what stocks can be seed for their investment plan. But anyway, thank you very much, Andre, for joining us this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you.
And that is today's that's for Market Headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, your trustworthy economic, business, and capital market channel. I'm Fajar Wayong. Have a nice evening. Stay safe.
Thank you.